What's going on, guys? Gomes here, back again on another MLB The Show 20 video. The time has come once again. We just yesterday achieved the 2-month anniversary, or at least from early access, of MLB The Show 20, and it is time to get my final thoughts, my overall review. 2 months is a great reviewing point for a live service game like MLB The Show because you really get a firm grasp on truly what the gameplay is going to be at its core and how content and how everything is going to be demeaned throughout the entire year. Now, this is a video that I did just last year at the same point for MLB The Show 19, at the same stopping point of 2 months. And I recently looked back at that video and there's two things that I noticed. One is I didn't feel I was the most professional about it. I didn't think I really conveyed my argument that clearly. And two, I probably put on 20 pounds, so two things I'm not particularly fond of. And before we get into this video, as always, you guys already know the drill. Make sure to leave a like down below if you guys are enjoying them. Really does help me out a ton. Please leave your thoughts down below, whether it be negative or positive. Either one, please leave your thoughts in the comment section and subscribe to the channel if you guys have not yet. If you guys are new, we have been putting out a lot of great gameplays, tip videos, news videos, whole bunch of stuff, the whole smorgasbord. Let's get into the review. The first thing I want to mention is we just got a new patch. It can be a little bit difficult to gauge things, being that it's only been a day and change of how long we've actually been able to play on it. But the thing that we do know for sure is this is the 11th patch. Now, there's two different ways that you can look at a game that's been out 2 months and has already had 11 patches. You can look at it at the glass is half full, the game was really terrible at launch, or you can look at a nice full glass and say they're putting effort into it. They're trying to make things better, they just haven't really hit it yet. And I don't know about you guys, but I am a particularly thirsty individual, especially if it's about Scarlett Johansson. So I think A for effort. That being said, moving on into our first point. Gameplay is the first thing I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go through all game modes. Timestamps in the comment section. It'll be the pinned comment if you want to see my opinion on each individual mode. Hitting, probably the most important thing and the biggest topic of concern every MLB The Show. I mean, as the great John Madden once said, you have to score to win. Same thing applies here. They introduced the perfect hitting system. I like it a lot. There are times where particularly perfect grounders I don't think really are rewarded that well. A lot of times with perfect grounders, you're going to end up getting outs. A lot more than liners or fly balls. That's just something I've noticed throughout playing. Generally, it is a really big addition because it is going to, well, reward you for having perfect swing timing and perfect PCI placement. Yes, there are outliers to where this is not the case, where you will have a perfect fly ball with a guy with not that much power and it ends up being a flyout, or you'll hit a perfect liner right at somebody. That's unfortunate, but for the majority of the time you are getting rewarded. The contact versus power battle I think is great. MLB The Show 18 was the biggest culprit in really ruining this because power was king, contact was peasants rather. 19 and 20 both have done a good job at making contact and power hitters both equally viable. And then the custom PCI I think is a big thing they added into the game. Yes, I'm sure there's some people that don't care, they have their PCI at default settings, but it really helps you out. If you are colorblind, it's going to help you find something that's going to help you see better. For me personally, there are certain things that I want and don't want to help me hit better. Lord knows I need everything possible in my favor to help me hit better. Those are the good things. What are the not so good things about hitting? Well, ironically enough, good okays. This is something very prevalent in the higher difficulties you're going to see, where hitting is increasingly difficult. I've said it before, I think hitting on lower difficulties is easier than ever, and hitting on higher difficulties is harder than ever. That is most difficult. The PCI is small, and if you face a guy like 99 Corey Kluber, it can really get sticky. So if you have really good placement and you get a good okay, it can a lot of times be weak flyouts, something that could arguably be good squared up, or sometimes in certain instances even perfect. So that's really frustrating, hasn't really been addressed. Bunting, I think, is severely overpowered. If you get a guy like 99 Byron Buxton, all you have to do is push bunt over to second base side, and you are going to get a base hit 9 times out of 10. The reasons being, you're so fast and you get such a good bunt placement, you are not going to be beat out. If you put it on the right side, you can outrun any first baseman. And also, pitchers get really terrible animations. This goes for swinging bunts as well. It's really long, and if you're fast, it's really easy to be safe. And check swings are another big issue. It really does impact pitching, but I'm going to throw it in at the hitting part. Check swings, think about this. Name one time where you've ever watched an MLB game where the majority of balls, the hitter has attempted to swing at it. It doesn't happen. Yes, I know the whole arcade versus sim debate, but you should not be rewarded for constantly almost biting into that pitch. There should be a lot more strikes being called on check swings. Moving on to pitching, some good things, some new things I want to talk about. The outlier quirk. The outlier quirk is affected on a primary pitch for a pitcher if it does exceed the usual velocity. So if your fastball goes hotter than 99 miles an hour, some guys have outlier quirk that makes it 102. The same applies for a sinker going up to 99 miles an hour. It makes it tougher on the higher difficulties because the disparity between a 102 fastball and a 70-mile-an-hour curveball is very tough to pick up on, but that is where a skill gap is starting to be introduced. Strikeouts are back, baby. This is something that kind of fell by the wayside the last couple games. It's harder to strike guys out because the timing window is so large, and they just had a patch that increased the timing window. I've only played a couple games on the new patch. I have noticed it a bit, but I am foreseeing the future that strikeouts are going to be a lot harder to come by, which is not a good thing. It really diminishes that skill gap that I just mentioned 10 seconds ago. Pitching accuracy is something that has been completely abysmal at times this year. Using analog pitching, which by the way is the most accurate out of the bunch of any inputs that you could possibly use for pitching, you can have perfect timing, and there's still many instances where you're going to hang a ball. Throw a curveball down below the strike zone, perfect timing. A lot of times, even with pretty good walk per 9 pitchers, you're still going to throw it down the middle. Obviously, you're going to face repercussions of that because a hanging curveball down the middle is one of the easiest pitches to hit. So that's a big problem. Anybody that plays video games knows balance is truly important. It should be perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And sinkers are just simply not balanced. It's to the point where you'll see a new pitcher, and if they don't have a sinker, you automatically kind of start to write them off because it is so effective, especially if you get a 99-mile-an-hour sinker with the outlier quirk, or even Corey Kluber's, which isn't particularly that fast. It comes in 93 to 95 miles an hour. Especially on the high difficulties, that can become a blur. It's really tough to hit, and it's sad to say that a lot of pitchers aren't being used simply because they don't have that one pitch. And the biggest problem with pitching, this is going to be controversial, I'm well aware of that, is starting pitchers coming out of the pen. It completely derives any strategy that you could possibly have from your bullpen when you can have your starter, have another starter, and then another starter. It just isn't fun to constantly be bouncing around with those guys. Yes, it is. You can make the argument it's going to hurt them in the long run because they're not going to have their top pitcher for X amount of more games because they use them in relief. But it's just not fun to see Corey Kluber come out of the pen. Have it be that he's already 50% of the pitchers that you face, then you also have to face him in the other 50% when he's not the starting pitcher. It's just not good. Fielding, what's good about it? Perfect throws are really nice. I like that there's another layer of skill. Is it really that inherently difficult to hit the perfect notch on a throw? Not always, especially if you have somebody with good accuracy. You get the timing, you get it adjust to, but it really does help you out in the long run. And I like the disparity between perfect throws being right on target, right with the tag for the catcher, and then not perfect throws, but still green being on the other side. Adds another layer of skill. So what's wrong about fielding? Everything. Not really. Lock-ons are the big thing. It's been listed in many patch notes. So often you'd think it was a punishment from a school teacher for doing wrong things in the classroom, but it never really seems to work. It's always still persisting, just plaguing the game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably haven't played the game because it happens quite often. Usually, you'll have a player lock into a fly ball because that just makes sense. It's not going to be completely free roam because everything is tied to animations, and oftentimes you just don't get that animation, particularly whenever it's hit to the wall. I've had a lot of instances where I get free base hits because of it. It is complete and utter lunacy. I know it might be hard to fix, but it is one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem, with MLB The Show 20. Then a couple miscellaneous things. Base running. There's this weird thing where you'll be halfway to the next base and they'll just decide to go back from whence they came. If you're 50-50, why don't you at least try and score? Rather than scamper back to third, you could still get out either way. Why not at least try and get a run on top of it? There'll be slow rollers that my diamond and gold defenders still don't get. That is not often, but it does happen. All else to say, I know we mostly focused on the negative things around gameplay because, well, there is kind of a lot of them, but, you know, I didn't really mention the obvious things. You know, catching a fly ball, it works. You know, those things are just inherently obvious that really didn't need to be mentioned. But one else thing I want to talk about. Gameplay needs more communication. I know we're dealing with a global pandemic currently, but I don't think that has anything to stand in the way of simply tweeting and saying, we know this is an issue, we're working on it. I think that's really all it takes to stop the community from getting in so much turmoil. Diamond Dynasty, that's my game mode I play most. That's what I do in my YouTube channel. What do I like about it most? It's the no money spent aspect. The fact that you can get such great cards, get a great team without having to spend a single dime. If you're new to this franchise, you might be expecting that somebody's gonna come tie you down and grab out your wallet and put in a $100 fee to buy some virtual currency or some Madden points. That's not the case here. They have a ton of different programs such as the XP reward path, inning programs that feature great new bosses that you can actually choose who you want to pick, and even if you don't want them, you can sell them on the community market and get stubs for other players. There's just so many different avenues, as you guys can see on the screen, of getting great players. It's truly amazing. Yes, sometimes the grinds are a little bit annoying, but I would much rather have that than feel the need to spend money in order to get a competitive team and thinking I actually need to if I want to have a chance of winning. And I'm sure some people could make the argument that the fact that there's only one currency in the game and the currency you buy with real in-world money is the currency you can buy cards with on the market makes it pay to win. If that's the case, sure, so be it. I would much rather be able to choose what I want to spend my money on than have to take a risk in a virtual pack that I have to open. That's a lot of fun, and hope that I get something, but 9 times out of 10 you don't, and you have to keep feeding in money to eventually strike it big and get something that in MLB you could have originally, because you have full control of what you want to spend your money on. Couple modes in particular I want to talk about. Showdown, completely new in the game. Caught me by surprise like Chris Hansen. It is amazing. Think Battle Royale, but take it offline. Draft your players, get great rewards, packs, stubs, vouchers to earn diamonds in the team affinity programs, which we're going to talk about now. They're having multiple expansions going on throughout the year, adding more diamond, more pack rewards within there. There's a diamond for every team, each expansion that they give, and there's just so many different ways to earn them, and you don't have to spend a single dime on them again. The programs, we talked about this. There's a flurry of different things that you can do in order to get these rewards. There's a separate showdown for it. There's a conquest map. There's missions, and you earn great diamond players along the way. The online modes, ranked seasons, battle royale, and events are what you come to expect. There are some issues. Ranked seasons, for example, there's not a whole lot of great rewards after earning World Series 900 plus rating to really make you want to play more. Battle royale is good. It can be difficult, especially being on all-star difficulty, can be extremely random at times, but all else to say, these game modes are all free with the exception of battle royale. Cost 1,500 stubs, but you can make tons within there. Another reason to why no money spent is so prevalent in this game mode. And then conquest and moments, these are your two offline things alongside showdown in Diamond Dynasty. Conquest is really like a board game the first time you play it. It's pretty magic, but it soon wears its tide as you play through it at least once, and it becomes more just in the background, just something extra that you're doing. It's not exactly fun. And moments, my favorite thing they added in MLB 19 is back. They've kind of put that on the back burner to Showdown, unfortunately, but there's still a lot of stuff you can do there, and it is really fun not having to play entire games and just getting right into the nitty-gritty. Okay, now what don't I like about Diamond Dynasty? Well, it's really just quality of life things. I don't like whenever I do an event, if I lose out on my run, it doesn't save your event lineup. You have to constantly go through it. I find usually I have to write it down or type it on a document on my computer to remember what my team looked like because it doesn't automatically save. It really sucks, and it costs me like 5 to 10 minutes of time each event run, and then sifting through my binder when clearing it to sell cards takes a lot longer than it could. If there was a toggle system where you could see all the duplicates in your binder or everything that is able to be sold, especially since collected cards can no longer be sold this year, it would make things so much easier. And then the lack of communication really extends into Diamond Dynasty. They usually have a schedule outlining the content that's going to happen throughout the week. I just wish they could expand on it a little bit more. Sometimes they don't always update it. And again, a simple tweet could really go a long way, especially for the gameplay. Offline modes. Here's where I'm going to get toxic. Franchise. What did they add? Stickers. That doesn't make sense to you? Well, it should, because that's in a sense of what they did. They advertised franchise upgrades as being a complete rebranding of your team, when in reality, all you can do is change your name, change your uniforms, change your logo. That might be enough for some people. Some people might think that's cool, but in reality, it's really just stamping something on what you're not. You have to play in pre-existing stadiums. All the MLB stadiums, classic stadiums, and minor league parks are available. Yes, minor league parks, you kind of have your own identity, but it doesn't feel like real baseball. It's usually a third to a fourth of the capacity of an actual MLB stadium, and a lot of them are placed in a desert, which doesn't make any sense in an actual MLB park. And if you look in the stadium, if you play at Camden Yards, for example, it's still going to have all the Orioles franchising and accenting. It's still going to have the bird, all the things that are accustomed to that specific stadium. So it really seems like a high school tournament, rather, where they're hosting two teams and they're playing inside of there. That's what it feels like. It never is going to feel like an actual rebranding until they have new stadiums and completely overhaul with relocation. Other than that, they didn't really touch it whatsoever. I'm going to go through a complete run through of the universal interface of MLB The Show 19 compared to MLB The Show 20, and you show me what the difference is. Road to the Show only got a few upgrades, or rather, I think only one upgrade, and that is dynamic on-field relationships with teammates. I'll admit it is actually pretty cool. The fact that you're playing more games and getting to have conversations, albeit it is dialogue, text only, you're not actually hearing somebody's voice. Well, I usually just skip over it. It is cool. With more games that you play, with more conversations with them, you actually get better stats with each other. So you're going to be a better player with them because of how often you two have been on the same team with each other. That's cool, but they did really nothing else to innovate the game mode. The archetypes are still the exact same. You're still in the non-existent rookie showcase that doesn't actually happen. I don't even want a story mode. I don't want something full fleshed out like 2K because I think that's kind of cringy. I'm not a big fan of it, and I think it's just a complete waste of funds and time. I think they have to have something else though. Just give us some high school games in a new stadium. Something that is different than what we've had since, I think, 2012? 8 years? March to October is the only offline game mode that you can actually visibly tell that they put some care into, and they added some cool stuff. You can now call players up. You can't do it whenever you want. There's certain times placed throughout the season where you can call up a select guy, but it is nice to have it nonetheless. You can now make trades. There's a whole trade hub, which I think is pretty cool. They made a nice screen for it where you can add players that you want to trade for, guys that you're looking to trade, in positions that you are going to need. Once again, you can't make the trades for yourself. Certain times, usually 4 or 5 times during the season, there's going to be presented 4 players that you have, or I think it's 3 players actually, that you can trade for. It's not free roam, but it is better, and it adds some sort of the franchise experience to a condensed franchise mode in March to October. A few miscellaneous things. Retro mode, nobody plays it, nobody bothered to update it, which doesn't really matter. For those that do enjoy that game mode, it's still pretty nicely polished. There's nothing new that you really can add to it, since it's supposed to replicate an old baseball game from the 2000s on the N64, for example. Play Now Online, I'll be honest, this is the only thing that I actually haven't tried out of this entire video. It's stale. It really hasn't changed either. Commentary is still extremely stale, or rather, it really hasn't been changed. If you guys watched my all MLB The Show games in one video, when I was playing those, I took a good listen into the audio, and a lot of the lines that Matty V is spitting have been in the game since its inception. You didn't think of re-recording some? Graphics are really as good as they get. I've always said MLB The Show is one of the best looking sports games on the market, and it's been relatively untouched for the last couple years, which makes sense. They've really truly maxed out the performance of the PlayStation 4, and I look forward to see how they can improve once the new console hits. That being said, it is truly the only simulation baseball game on the market. I know Super Mega 3 Baseball is on early access. I'm interested in seeing that. And you know I'm interested in seeing RBI Baseball. Have a lot of great memories with that. I can't wait to spread open those cheeks and really dive right into it. So what would I rate this game? I did take everything into account. Gameplay, Diamond Dynasty, all the offline game modes. Even if I don't play them all the time, I still think it's important to get an overall look at the game. On a number scale, I would most likely give it between a 6.5 and 7 out of 10, which I truly am typically harsh on games and movies in my ratings. I don't just hand out 10s willy-nillys like the NBA dunk contest nowadays, except for Dwayne Wade. I don't really like doing that, so giving this game a 7 rating isn't saying it sucks. It's well above average if you consider average being a 5 out of 10. I truly enjoy this game. Now the question remains, this is my full-time job, doing YouTube, covering MLB The Show. Would I play it if this wasn't my job? Yes, I would. Because if you're a baseball fan, I think it is easier to look past the miscues within gameplay, within the things that they don't update in franchise mode. At the end of the day, we're all baseball junkies. Most of us, I assume, watching this video. So we're still going to gravitate towards franchise mode, even if they didn't do a great job of innovating. It's still a good experience. I just would like to see them do more with it. And it's frustrating to see them constantly step away from that and kind of leave it in the dust. So that's my thoughts on MLB The Show 20. Once again, I would love to hear what you guys think. Hopefully this video is not going to be too long, but once again, I wanted to improve on my MLB 19 video and really go into a lot more depth within this one and give a whole lot more explanation, at the same point touching on literally everything this game has to offer. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like down below. Thank you all for watching. There goes GomesDaLegend.